This is my favorite part.
Hello, this is your host Walker Chandler. Also, sometimes a BP reenactor. Let me see. All I have to do is put on a hat, and it
Look at him
changes
go.
my personality quite completely. And tonight, we're very fortunate, since we're thinking about the history of scouting, to have Alex Bennett on. And Alex is the curator of the World Scouting Museum, and he's the curator, excuse me, not the creator. There, and it's in Charleston, West Virginia, which happens to be near the Bechtel Scout Reserve, which is where the 2019 World Jamboree was held. And some of you may have met me there. All right, and now I'm going to turn it over to Alex to tell just a little bit about his background and why he got into the position he's in. But I have to run off to campfires around the world, so my friend Walker Chandler will take my place while Alex introduces himself and explains the Scouting Museum.
Hello, so my name is Alex Bennett, and I'm really lucky to be the museum curator here at the World Scouting Museum. It's an amazing job where I get the opportunity to work every day with scouts. And for the first couple of years, it was kind of hard for us to reach scouts. So we're really happy to have this opportunity. We really appreciate you guys having us on today. That way we could reach more scouts. This year, specifically 2026, has been probably our busiest year here at the World Scouting Museum. And we're just blown away by the response that we've had from scouts all around the country. We've been very lucky that our Merit Badge College program that we offer here, the Robert Lynn Horn Merit Badge College, has blown up in popularity and it's taken off. We're offering tons of virtual merit badges to scouts all over the country and helping scouts reach the rank of Eagle, or, if they're in Sea Scouts, the quartermaster rank. We'd love to have more Sea Scouts if you're out there. And also we're trying to help scouts that are working towards the summit rank as well. So we're really excited to be able to do a lot here this year, especially with a jamboree coming up to the Summit Bechtel Reserve. Mm-hmm. And we're hoping to be able to offer some really unique programming for this jamboree. The last jamboree, we just really moved into our space here at the World Scouting Museum, and we're really just trying to get situated, if that makes sense. We had 5 tractor trailer loads of scouting memorabilia that came across the country from Las Vegas here to Charleston. Oh, wow. So we were still kind of growing into the space. For this jamboree, we've kind of got our roots set, and we're really ready to try to offer as much as we can and to have as many scouts here as possible this year. So if you are coming to the summit, maybe just to visit, or if you're going to come up this year to the summit for the jamboree itself, we hope that you and your troop would consider stopping by and visiting us. If you come by, you're going to get the first 4 requirements to Scouting Heritage. So I don't think that's a bad proposition just to attend the museum for a day. It's halfway to America. Yeah, so it's a pretty good deal.
How does sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, how does a jamboree attendee how far away is it from Summit?
That's a great question. And honestly, I'm really glad that you asked. So we kind of were not sure where to position the museum when we moved to West Virginia. I'm from West Virginia. I've lived here my whole life. So that was really before I came on board at the museum. But we were really not sure if we should put it closer to the summit in Beckley, if we should put it in Charleston. What we ended up deciding was if we could, be near the airport here in Charleston, that would give scouts an opportunity to get off the airplane, take a little bit of a rest, and not go straight to the summit. It's about an hour.
Right
in the car, around some windy roads and up and down some mountains. So we thought it might be nice for them to have a little bit of a break, maybe take 30 minutes or half an hour to stop by here, check out the museum and some of the displays that we have. And we have stuff from all around the world. It's an incredible collection. And I've not made it out to Philmont myself yet to that museum, but I'm told that we have a lot more on display, which just because we have more space, we're really lucky in the space that we have here and the items that we're able to display from the OA collection that we have on display in the Goodman Edsel room, and to the Baden-Powell room, which has everything international and national scouting kind of all into one, along with the World Scout Bureau collection that we have. And that's something that we really want to share with scouts on the way to the Jamboree for sure.
That's really cool. Did you attend? Did you go to Jamboree at all for the 19 one?
No, I
just
wasn't able
work.
to. Yeah, I was actually in college in 2019. I think that was the year I graduated. So I was a little bit busy. I was trying to find a way to be able to work the Jamboree, but I just wasn't able to make it happen, unfortunately. So I was really lucky when this opportunity popped up. I think a couple years later that I didn't even know it was a scouting job, to be honest with you. So it was just super. The executive director, he reached out to me for an interview. Then he told me it was for a scouting museum, and he said, "Were you a scout?" I said, "Well, yeah, of course. I've got roots, and, that'd be great. I know a lot about scouting." So it was just a great fit for me, and I've been really lucky to work with local scouts. But really, our response has been from scouts all around the country more than local scouts. We've been trying to bring more in, but they know we're here, so I think we're kind of the last thing on the list for them to do. So.
Me and Walker are kind of moving through a similar thing. We've had so many of our local council friends come on the podcast, be guests, and help spread it out, which is wonderful, and I love it. But I'm trying to do the same thing, kind of cross the local bridge into the countrywide and even international bridge too. So I totally understand. I totally understand just trying to get the word out and spread it out and let people know.
Well, I think with scouting, we in a lot of ways we don't have the same kind of marketing budgets like no nonprofit does, right?
Yeah.
So when you're scouting related, we don't really spend money on marketing anymore. In the past, we spent it, I think, more like the Garfield Spokes Cat program. That was something that kind of we happened upon. We got lucky with. We didn't really spend a lot of money on it. We were given that opportunity. The BSA was at the time. Yeah. So we don't really advertise like we should, and I think it's in this day and age, I think we're doing ourselves a little bit of a disservice, unfortunately. But it's hard. Where do you find the money? That's the main
and the time, because the classic way to advertise, or not classic, but the more popular way to advertise these types of things, museums, podcasts, even it's through that short form video content. And I tell you what, you can get good at making the videos, but getting them edited and getting them out there and making sure you stay consistent to the point where the algorithm, or whatever you want to call it, is going to catch on to you,
Yeah. And the other thing too, I think it's hard for maybe councils because, a lot of it is volunteer based. It's hard for me because, I might be a paid employee for the museum, but I have to really manage every aspect of it. So there have been different things I've tried. We do have a podcast that we offer as well, but it's really focused on scouting history and actually exhibits within the museum. So we kind of use it to further tell the story of items in the collection or things that happened in scouting history. And just like with you, I've had trouble even getting people that have been to the museum to listen to it, that have seen the items, just because it's not something that they are really searching for right now. Yeah. I think it's one of those things that when they find it, they realize the value of it after 10, 12, 15 episodes. That's the real big thing.
Yeah. In a lot of cases, almost feels like it requires their attendance to the museum, but it doesn't. What's the name of your podcast for the museum?
So it's actually a pretty interesting way that I put it together. Like I said, really just being a staff one. We did have an AmeriCorps member, but unfortunately with some of the changes to the AmeriCorps program and some changes within our state, we weren't eligible for AmeriCorps this year, which kind of really put a damper on what we're able to offer, not only scouts, but just general attendees, guests to the museum. But what I was able to do before she left, I was really lucky. I found this program and I started to use AI a little bit. I'm not too deep into it, but Google Notebook LM is this tool that they have. And I will take and I will pick out sources. I'll check the sources, input that into the AI agent, and then it'll actually build out the podcast for me and do a deep dive about the subject and talk really in depth about it and give more background about what it's talking about. The hosts are actually a doll from our Girl Scout collection, Daisy doll. She's a Cabbage Patch doll that's dressed in Daisy outfit. And then the male host is Steve Scout of the Steve Scout dolls, or action figures, if you want to call them that, whichever, made by Kenner. So we picked two scouting, actually it's kind of like, the museum comes to life and they actually tell the story of items within the museum. I thought it was a much more interesting way to maybe get to Cub Scouts potentially, and maybe younger scouts would be interested in that. It was a way I could do it really simply without me having to actually sit down and have a full hour conversation with somebody and record that.
Right.
And it allowed us to really give so much more depth to the history. One of my favorite episodes that we've done in the last, because we're on our 13th episode, we started this last year. My favorite episode was one that we did about the World's Fair, scouting in the World's Fair. No one talks about scouting in the World's Fair. I think it's a really interesting subject. It's like the World Jamborees and the National Jamborees we forgot. Is kind of how I look at it. And they pulled out so much great information. And then after we did that, we did a newsletter, exhibit spotlight on the stuff from the World's Fair. I did that podcast episode that featured it. After all that, I actually got a donation, a call from a scout that was at the World's Fair who sent me his actual letter of like, thank you for working the World's Fair, something from his council president, and then the jacket that he was given with his World's Fair patch on the back that he wore during the World's Fair. So, I mean, you're really able to expand upon the story. And then now people are sending me stuff that has to do with that part of that history. And it really just, it makes it so tangible for the actual scouts. And then they start asking questions about, well, what was the World's Fair? And why don't we have those anymore? And what were they? Why? That sounds really cool. Why isn't that something we do? And what did the scouts do? And it's like this almost lost story that we don't really talk about. It was a service that we provided for the whole country at the World's Fair. Yeah. So I think it allows me to really pull so much more from not just the sources, but it takes all that information, and instead of me spending weeks reading it all, and I can go through it and
it's immediately digestible.
Yeah, it's so much easier. I mean, it's like within an hour, I've got a whole podcast episode, and I'm really able to, if I don't like it, I can change it. It's great. So I've been trying to get more museums to utilize it, actually, because I think it's a great tool for those type of things and to condense subjects.
If I may interrupt, I'm Walker Chandler. My friend BP had to leave, and so I'm here. But anyway, normally I have a heavy Southern accent, but be that as it may, one thing we talk about is promoting scouting. I think one thing that is maybe lacking is that we're not in any big movies anymore. Remember there was one called Follow Me Boys that was Fred McMurray or somebody, and there were other ones. I remember Raiders of the Lost Ark. I believe it started off with a scout troop, and that was I kind of think children need to see the adventure on the big screen, and so they want to be a part of it, just like they want to be Star Wars warriors or whatever. And I think that would be and I've even written a screenplay. It hasn't been taken up or even offered properly, but it was about a boy learning to play bagpipes, and he had been Cub Scouts and with his friends, and they had all that, there's all that we bring into the subject of how scouting was a part of their young life.
I want to tell you this, and Alex might have been about to say this, but recently, have you heard of the show Stranger Things? It got very, very popular. It's called Stranger Things. It was very popular on Netflix. It's crazy that you haven't heard of that. It's one of the most popular shows of the past 5 years or more. But one of their recent season actually did feature some scouts in it, which you might like to know. And also there was a very popular movie, 2015. So I know it's 11 years ago. I guess it's not recent. It's called Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. Now it's not, of course, these are not BSA, scouts, but the idea, they're neckerchiefs and uniforms, and they do scouty type things. Now the Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse is, I don't know if it's necessarily appropriate for children or anything, but it does represent scouts in some fashion.
Well, one of the most it's not, I don't know if it's a super popular movie, but one of the most recent movies to feature scouting actually was the one that Steven Spielberg put out about his family and his life. It's like a biopic. I think it's called, I can't remember what it's called, but he actually talks about how scouting was his beginning of his love for making movies. That's where he kind of, the film, I think movie making, I can't remember, or filmmaking merit badge, whatever it was called. That was what really inspired him, and he really took it from there. And Spielberg was the one that put that in Raiders, you know what I mean, and all that stuff. So he it really did follow with him. And there are a couple other movies, but Follow Me Boys is the most popular. Girl Scouts have had a couple opportunities where they've popped up. There's that Troop Beverly Hills movie, which I think is a hilarious movie. It's quite funny if you ever get a chance to watch that. There's a Cub Scout movie that most people have never heard of, and we have a poster for it in the hallway. I think it's called I'll have to look it up. I can't think of the name.
The Spielberg movie is called The Fabelmans.
The Fabelmans, yeah, that's right. That's the one.
I'm writing that down. Fabelmans.
I hear it.
Yeah,
it's pretty new.
By the way, this brings up something where Elliot said about the movie of the Scouts zombie apocalypse thing. They weren't really BSA type thing or Scouting America, but that now we have a few other groups that we hope these podcasts appeal to. And one of them is there's Trail America.
Trail Life. Yeah.
Trail Life, excuse me. And then of course 4-H is a sort of a program that we think is similar to what Scouting offers in terms of all the different skills that they try to help people learn. And I believe the Mormons, the Church of Latter-day Saints, has some kind of a Scouting like group now.
When they split off, they kind of developed their own brand of Scouting, but I'm not sure what it's called. It might be Trail Life, actually. It might be.
It could be. Yes,
it could be.
That might be theirs.
I'd love to get a Trail Life representative on the podcast too. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I might be able to help you guys. I'll see what I can do on that for you.
Well, we're going to expect a lot of help out of you. That's what we're going to
I mean, I do.
Careful, Alex.
You're talking about asking for more international people. I might be able to help with people that work with international scouts. And
yes.
I would love to get Dr. Horn, our executive director, for you guys sometime to talk with him. He is definitely an international scouter. He's been to every world and national jamboree except for one in his lifetime. And he actually just got back this year from the Asia Pacific and the Africa Scout Region conferences. So he knows all the type of people. I'll talk with him and we'll see what we can do about that.
That sounds great. Yes.
There is one other thing though. I know you're kind of on the whole subject. The BSA, or not the BSA, but Scouting America just announced that they just entered a partnership with Lions Forge Entertainment to produce Scouting movies, TV shows, and things like that. The company has recently won Emmy Awards and an Oscar in the past, I believe. So that's really positive news. I guess the idea is to produce Scouting content like that. And I think that is definitely a step in the right direction. When I actually put that in our newsletter, because I thought it was so positive. And they're even going to try to do like unscripted content with family unscripted content that focuses on Scouting, which I think is a great idea because I think ultimately it will make more people want to be involved in Scouting, not only just scouts that are joined, but volunteers, because that's one of the things we need the most, right?
Well, one of the things we're trying to do is, although at this point we're sort of targeted toward the older scout in the troop and the parents. And parents that are beginning to get into things, and volunteers and scouters who've been doing it a long time, is to bolster it all so that people feel much more appreciated for what they're doing. And the younger scout leaders have a lot of encouragement. By the way, you said a newsletter. I assume that's a internet newsletter, an e-newsletter.
Yeah. So
tell us how to get that. Tell everybody how to get that. All right.
Yeah. So if you go to our website, it's worldscoutingmuseum.org, and then it's just /news, and you can sign up. There's a button that you just click that says sign up here for the newsletter, and you have to click that little button. I'm working on trying to make it a little bit easier for everyone, but we had such an amazing response after Christmas this year. We just got really lucky on social media. And then one of the scouts that actually did our virtual merit badge program, his dad works for Meta, the Facebook company. I will not be surprised if he didn't help me a little bit and boost us, because the next day we had 160,000 people see our Facebook stuff, which is never before had that happen for us. So we have gotten so many people that have reached out and so many people that sign up for the newsletter. It actually was way more than what I'm allowed to even send out. So I had to switch whole email programs and stuff. I mean,
Yes.
we've had such amazing growth. I think a big part of it is the Jamboree this year. That's always going to, be a big spike in interest for us. But I'm just super thrilled that we had that problem to solve.
Well,
You know what I mean?
that's right. As soon as Elliot gives you the link for this podcast, I hope you'll just send that out in the newsletter.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I mean, obviously, we all try to work together, but I mean, in the world, there's only so much time in a day for people to watch content. So what we hope, of course, is that they watch content that will enhance their lives, right? And enhance the willingness and ability of parents, I think, to support scouting and to get their kids in scouting because their kids need scouting, whether it's scouting or Trail America or 4-H or something, but they need it. So
yeah, I think the thing that people don't realize is there's such a knowledge gap in what you are taught in school and what you're supposed to know and what the real world is. And I think scouting fills that knowledge gap really well. And it teaches you not only how to be a great citizen, which is super important for all of us, but it teaches you how to hold yourself, important ideals that all Americans should uphold, regardless of where you came from or your background. I think that it's a unifying organization that teaches us how to be better and teaches you how to be prepared. What more could you ask for? You know what I mean?
Well, it combines not only that, but also the actual getting out there and doing it. I'm reminded of our troop when I was a child. There was a boy that had childhood polio and was fairly hampered in his ability to walk. And his father went on the first camp out with him and said, "Here, I'll take his pack." And the assistant scoutmaster said, "No, don't. Let him do it." And so the boy did it. And they hiked in a mile or 2 miles or something. And the boy was so proud that he had accomplished something that kind of people were saying, "Oh, you can't do that." And, there's just so much mile swim or all the different things that are available through I think hard outdoor experiences are better for kids than easy ones.
Oh yeah. One of my core memories growing up is I was really lucky to go to summer camp. I only got to go 1 year before I moved away, unfortunately, to a new city. But I got to go to summer camp and I had the best experience ever there. I got tapped out to do my ordeal. It was amazing for me. But one thing I will never forget, the most memorable thing, was the polar bear plunge that I did that year at summer camp when I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm not a morning person, have never been a morning person. I had to go jump into the lake at 5 o'clock and it's freezing cold to earn that merit badge. Or not merit badge, but that little special recognition patch. It wasn't important. It didn't matter. But it made me feel like I accomplished something that I never thought I'd be able to do, especially after the first day, because you have to go I think it's the whole time you're at camp to earn that or whatever. And I mean, it's not as nice as like the mile swim, but it's just one of those things that kind of proved to me that no matter what, even when I want to quit, I can keep going. I can keep moving forward and reach that accomplishment. And I think for kids, it for all ages. I mean, it's always positive reinforcement's amazing, but in scouting, we have these great accomplishments and achievements that you can reach. And it might seem pedestrian to some people, but ultimately I think that it teaches you that, you get those good feelings from achieving something. You feel like you've done something good. And then that leads into the whole aspect of, community outreach and what we do in our communities and how we help people. And then those fuzzy feelings start kicking up inside of you. And, you feel something you've never really felt before. That's what, whenever we went out to do the canned food drive in scouting, that was one of the first memories where I felt something I never felt before as a kid, because I enjoyed going to pick up the food and I enjoyed working at the I can't think of the word.
Distributions.
Distribution. Yeah, where you're giving the food out. It was amazing. Because that those families are being fed, that everyone's working together, that we're helping each other. And here in West Virginia, I'm lucky to live here my whole life. We have a sense of community where we'll always take care of each other. And I think that's why we're so lucky to have the summit here. I think it's a great place for kids to visit and to see what, a little bit of Southern, not quite Southern hospitality is, but people that care about their neighbors and that really want to invite, people to visit. And we want you to love our home as much as we love our home. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that the Scouts get to come and see that at the summit.
Well, Alex, when I was at when Baden Powell was at the World Jamboree, that "Take Me Home to West Virginia," that song of who is it, John Denver?
Yeah.
They were singing that. Kids from all over the world were singing that, and they just loved it. And we were talking about challenges. Elliot on some of these has talked about his at the Northern Tier.
Oh yeah,
and then having to carry all that heavy equipment and portage over those places, the kind of things that a lot of folks would say, really. And then,
well, what he's talking about, I'll fill you in a little bit. I think I've told the story once or twice on the podcast, but I'm a big guy. I'm 6'1", 320. And I've always been a big guy. I had that one growth spurt, and then I was done. And
same boat.
Yeah. So me being the big guy at 14 with other 14, 15, 16-year-olds, I did the program called NAIL, National Advanced Youth Leadership Experience up there. It was their pilot that they did up in Minnesota at the time. Because I was the big guy, I carried the heaviest stuff. And when the little guys in my patrol that were there couldn't handle it anymore, I carried their stuff too. Portage is the word that you use for the canoe, putting a canoe on your shoulders and moving along. It felt like a cuss word for several months after that trip. It really did. So
I'm about the same size and I think this growth spurt came around 13. You know what I mean? So I completely understand how that goes. And I mean, even to this day with some of the stuff here, when we were moving stuff into the museum, Dr. Horn is, I think when we moved here, he was still in his 70s. He had up the museum in the 90s. So, he's getting up there. And one day I was just broken down. You know what I mean? You're just like, I can't do it anymore. I got to take a break.
I need a break. I'll be a mule for a while, but
that's why you hired me, wasn't it? That's what I was always joking with him. You hired me because I'm a big guy and you knew I could carry all this stuff in here, didn't you?
That's how this happened. We've got some comments rolling in from Facebook from James Coker, who happens to be my father. We've got a big audience here, as you could tell. He said that he's glad I had the opportunity, and you were talking about reaching your potentials that you didn't know you had. I think in scouting, just teaching the young people that it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be dog tired like that, because it's fun it's a game with a purpose. That's what I've heard all the time. It's a game with a purpose. And sometimes in games you scrape your knee. Sometimes in games you fall down. Sometimes it sucks and you want to quit just because you lost the game or whatever. But this one, there's no losing this game. Even if you don't make Eagle Scout, I'd say, me and Walker talk about this a lot, is that if you make it to first class, you're a first class scout and there's first class citizen. And if I could encourage every scout that joins the program to at least get to first class, Eagle Scout's a great achievement. No, don't get me wrong. And so is Quartermaster for the Sea Scouts. So is the Summit Award for Adventure Scouts. Everyone should try to go for that if you can. But if you don't, I don't think you've lost out on anything so long as you've got to first class. That's where all the important skills are garnered. I'd say, in my opinion. There's some, to get to Eagle, like the Eagle Board of Review, I think is an important stressor for every scout. But the board reviews along the way to get there can be just as frustrating or just as difficult sometimes for some troops. Some troops are easier than others for their in-troop board of reviews, but being uncomfortable like that for the betterment of yourself, for the betterment of scouting, I'll carry some stuff into a museum. I'll portage that canoe again. I'll do it again.
Well, I think you hit on some really important things. Honestly, whenever you look at how do these things affect us? We kind of learn that don't quit attitude. and there are consequences to those actions. You know what I mean? People just give up. And those consequences are numerous. They could be, you could lose money, you can, get messed, you could lose a court case, you could do all kinds of things by just inactivity or by giving up and just going with whatever happens. I think scouting teaches you to follow things through, and it really, it helps you to make a point on things that are important. It helps you in just so many aspects of your life. I use the scout law and the scout oath a lot, but I'm surrounded by scouting stuff every day. So for me, it's a constant reminder. But I'm one of those scouts that didn't make it to Eagle Scout. I made it to life. And my problem was the Eagle Scout project. I moved right before it was time for that. And then I was like, I have time until I'm 18. You know what I mean? And just never got around to it, unfortunately. But once upon a time, that wouldn't have even been a requirement. Dr. Horn, when he became an Eagle Scout, there was no Eagle Scout project. It was just board review and you're done. Mm-hmm. You just have to earn everything. So sometimes, I think the most important things are what scouts get from all aspects of the program. And I think you're right. When it comes to first class, you become a first class citizen. Like you said, you really learn, kind of what it means to be an American, or, even outside of America. We can expand that to all around the world. That's the goals of scouting, is to make you a better citizen.
I think citizenship in the world is a great merit badge that every scout should take.
Oh yeah.
Alex, speaking of that, have you had many international visitors at the museum yet?
We've had a few. So over the last probably 3 years, there's been maybe 5 to 6, maybe 8 tops. And normally it's surprising. We don't always expect to see them. They kind of just pop up and they don't really let us know they're coming or anything like that. They're just in the area for other things. Recently this year, we had a family that was here from, I believe, Ukraine, I think. That they happened to be working, like they were working at a local factory here, learning whatever they're going to do, and then going back to their home country. But they were training here in West Virginia, so they did scouting. Their kids did scouting here in America, and then they're going to go back and join their scout troop when they get back home. So I was just super thrilled that they brought their scouts here for me to work with them. I was so happy for that opportunity. Firstly, because I don't get an opportunity to work with that many international scouts until we have a World Jamboree. I'm really excited for that to happen. Yeah. But I don't really get very many scouts. So that was the first actual scouts of scout age that showed up, and I was super happy to have them. But mostly it's been adults or like parents of scouts, or like scouts that have like aged out of scouting, and they're still involved. But yeah, it's been very few. There've been a couple from Germany, which was great. The lady that came from Germany really explained, kind of talked with me a lot about the history of German scouting and like really what happened after World War II and how they reorganized scouting to be less militaristic and how it went more with religions. She kind of explained how it all worked to me. And that opened up a lot of interest in how a lot of the other scouting organizations work around the world, and like that are more focused, like religion based, like in Spain and some other countries like that. Because we really have a different model to most other countries. For a lot of countries, girls have been a part of their organizations for decades at this point, because they just didn't have the funding like, the Boy Scouts of America did and the Girl Scouts of the USA did in the past. Now we're kind of catching up with all these other countries, and the funding's starting to become an issue. And there have been times in the past where both organizations have tried to buy the other. In America too. So really, I think that, the girls coming into Scouting America, for me, it's been great. It's given me an opportunity to work with more girls. And the program, as much as I like the Girl Scout program, it's really hard for me to work with the scouts to do like, proficiency badges, as opposed to what Scouting America offers. I really would love to see them get closer to like that kind of model, if that makes sense. Maybe.
Yeah, it makes sense. I was going to say that I have gone, I think in 1963, when we went to London with the scouts to the World Jamboree, there's a house in London. I mean, it's like, I guess it's called the Baden-Powell House, but it's a museum there. But we also went out to Gilwell Park and that was kind of neat. And it's, so maybe what we need to do is get our friends in Great Britain to understand that you're there. And hey, look, when you come to the United States, West Virginia is just waiting for you. West Virginia's got a great tourist program.
Oh
The
yeah.
government does.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
We've,
it's amazing. There's so many amazing things to see, and if you come in the summer, you can stop by this. They will let you tour the summit if you really want to tour it and see it. If you call up there and ask, they'll let you come up and look around. And then we have so many great state parks. I mean, they're amazing. It's beautiful here. You can go whitewater rafting. You can go to the New River Gorge and see the bridge.
And
Come
have
to
you
Bridge
jumped
Day.
off? Have you jumped off it yet? That's the one.
I've looked from the ground up at the bridge. There's no way I would jump off that thing.
Well, for those that are listening, it's the New River Gorge Bridge is just a few miles from the summit, and it's about a 900, 1,000 feet drop, and people do bungee jumping from there and free base, I guess, parachuting from there too.
Yeah, they have a massive day every year this Bridge Day, where they just have all kinds of events and do all kinds of fun things. We also have all kinds of crazy festivals. Yesterday was actually West Virginia History Tourism Day at the Capitol, so we were just over there. So I got a whole brochure of festivals that we have. Some of the most popular ones are the Bigfoot festivals here. We have one of those here in West Virginia that's amazing to attend. We usually get anywhere from 3,000 to 7,000 people, I think, go to that. We also have the Mothman is from West Virginia, so you can come visit the home of the Mothman and do the Mothman Festival. If you play Fallout 76, we have Fosnot. That happens here in Helvetia, West Virginia every single year, and it's a big program. And this year, I think Fosnot, or they're trying to do something, the Fallout 76, like people that come up to do the thing at Fosnot, trying to do something with the Jamboree too, I believe. So there's all kinds of fun, interesting things to do in West Virginia. If you get an opportunity to visit us, we would love to have you. All kinds of great food. You got to try a pepperoni roll or West Virginia hot dog while you're in town. And just so much to see. If you come to our museum, there are other museums nearby. We're close to the council office. So you can always stop by and see them and try to trade some patches. We have lots of scouts that stop by us, and then we'll go to the council to try to trade patches. So it's really just the summer. Right now it's a little cold, but you could still ski if you wanted. But in the summer, it really is a fun place to visit. There's tons of camping. So for scouts, I mean, it's one of the best places in the country to actually go out and enjoy the outdoors. It's amazing. So we really want to highlight all that wonderful stuff that we have. And every year we're just growing. The tourism industry is getting bigger and bigger. So the more people visit us, the more it's going to grow for us. Hopefully we hope in the future. So,
we've since we are live right now, and we're getting a couple of questions coming in. One from Daniel Donahue. I'll see if I can put it on that. It says, what do you feel is the biggest impact that an up-and-coming Eagle Scout can give to a community that's beyond the Scouts? Since Elliot Coker says you're a first-class citizen, I'd love to know your opinion on what y'all think the biggest impact is.
Well, I'm the oldest here, so let me say first that in a way you never can tell what your impact will be until you're an older man looking back, or older woman looking back and saying, what did I do? And then you might say, I really did a lot because I stepped up. That's the thing is in our society is we need people that step up, and scouts step up even when they're young. And that's one thing I loved about Boys Life magazine. They always had stories of scouts who came forward and did stuff. Like there was always one about heroism, and these people that. Remember, there was a troop about 3 years ago on a train coming back from Philmont, and the train wrecked. And those scouts, they didn't have to be told; they stepped up and they started helping people. And that's where I tell scouts that you need to not only step up, but need to know what you're doing when you step up. And that's why first aid and life saving is so important, because you see somebody drowning out there, and you could become a drowning victim yourself if you didn't know what to do. And first aid, I tell them, I say, you may only be 11 years old, but it might be your mother bleeding to death in the kitchen. What are you going to do? Just call 911 and hope? Or are you going to do something to help her? And you've got to know what to do. And so if a guy says, well, what kind of impact when you have the impact of teaching, helping, and being involved in civic organizations like the Kiwanis and scouting and Rotary and be involved in politics.
We
But
do.
yeah, those are important. So I've talked enough. How about
No,
you?
I was
Or,
just to add. We spoke earlier about the food drives, and right now, actually, at least in our council, it's the scouting for food is going on right this minute. It's probably all the councils. I don't know for sure, but this Sunday we're going to do that very thing for a few hours. Looking forward to that. But we have another question from Noel. Says what val or well, she's my friend. I call her Lexi. Says, what values will the Eagle Scouts teach my younger children other than community give back? And where do these values come from? I'd like to take the lead on that one. The values are instilled from at least when you are a Boy Scout or a Scout. Starting at 11 years old, we have something called the Scout Law, and we say at every meeting we raise our right hand with the Scout sign. That's this for those that don't have the sideways thing. We put that in a 90-degree angle, and we say a scout. We'll ask everyone to begin, and we say a scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And another thing that we say during those meetings is the scout oath. I won't go through that, but what it's doing is reinforcing the scout law, which those are the 12 points of the scout law. And those are the values that if you can live by 99% of them, which you can't get away with 99%, but if you can do your best, which is the Cub Scout motto, to live up to that scout law in your everyday life, those are the values that are trying to be instilled into the younger children that join, whether it's Cub Scouts or just the younger scouts that join in the scout program too. So that's where those values come from, and where they started was with Baden Powell himself. He wrote those 12 points, and then went into detail on what each one of those words mean, because you have the Webster's dictionary definition, of course, of those words, but that's not necessarily the definition that's being used for the Scout Law. Walker knows all those definitions by heart, I'm sure, but I don't remember them all. But I do know the words, and I know what they mean to me, and I try to follow those every day. So to answer that question, the values come from the Scout Law, and that's the idea. That's what's trying to be taught or instilled into the younger children that join.
Alex, you were going to say something, I can tell.
Yeah, well, I think Elliot hit it right on the head, and especially when you talked about the doing your best. That I think that there's a reason we pulled that for the Cub Scouts as the motto, and it's in the Boy Scout. It's in the promise. It's hard to do your best every single time, all the time, every time you do something. But if you try your very best, you will be way more successful than you ever can imagine. That's the thing that we all don't realize how successful we can be if we do our very best. And scouts, I think, with that thrifty aspect, can pull anything together and make anything happen. And that's really one of the most important aspects of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to teach other scouts. We want them to be self-reliant. That is one of the most important things. We want to make people that can take care of themselves and can help others. That's what we really want.
Well, if I may interrupt, then I always, we had to memorize the whole little paragraph back in the 50s. And a scout is brave. He has the courage to face danger in spite of fear, and to stand up for the right against the coaxings of friends or the jeers or threats of enemies. And the coaxings of friends, this, Noel, I would say to you that's one thing that as people become teenagers and they start maturing as adults, they have all those coaxings, whether it be boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever, or people that want to coax them to start smoking or drinking or things like that. And they need to have the courage to say, I don't do that, because I know it's not good for me, and it's not good for my little brother and sister, or whatever, my family or my reputation. So that courage to stand up against the coaxings of friends, I think is something that really needs to be emphasized in the whole program.
Yeah, building courage and building confidence, like we were talking about earlier, doing the hard stuff because you can, the portaging of the canoes, carrying the heavy bag. Let your kid carry their own bag. Don't do it for them. Teach your kids to be uncomfortable a little bit, and they get used to that feeling of I'm nervous, but I know I should do this, or I know I'm tired, but I know I can make it the rest of the way up this hill with the bag. It starts with those simple tasks like that, and then it moves to, I don't know if I should apply for this job. When they grow older, I don't know if I should apply for this job. I'm nervous. I'm not going to do it at all. But if you were a scout, you've been through board of reviews. You know what a job interview is. You've already done the work to live in that, being uncomfortable with it. So giving the kids that confidence, or teaching them that confidence over time, instills that willingness to step up, to take the initiative, and to the willingness to do your best and try your best and try your hardest.
I think another aspect that it's really important that you're going to learn is teamwork. And we don't really talk about that a lot in scouting.
Oh, yeah.
We really learn how important it is to work as a team. We work together. We learn the value of working together. And we learn that as a team, we are always stronger than as an individual. There's no comparison. When there's two people, it's always going to be stronger than one. So as scouts, we learn to utilize our resources as much as we can. So when we put our heads together, we can solve a lot more problems, or a problem a lot more efficiently than we could by ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, something that we teach: socialization and team building skills, how to be comfortable in those environments. And you start at a young age, and that's really what matters. If you start out in Cub Scouts and you're in your pack, and you guys are doing stuff together and having fun and you're doing the little Cub Scout thing, that's great. But that's part of socialization. And unfortunately, we're living in a world today where public schools aren't really, they're not, I guess, at the same level that they've been in the past. Maybe when, Elliot and I were in school, it probably was a little bit better. I don't really know. I don't have kids, so I'm not sure. But people don't seem to be sending their kids to public schools. There seem to be a lot of homeschool program kids. There seem to be a lot of private school kids or whatever. And the problem with the homeschool kids is, where are they going to get that socialization? That's what scouting offers you.
Well, I would say that's true. But scouting offers something to all children. But in the schools, it seems to me that in many of the schools, I haven't been in many lately, but teaching leadership. You teach leadership by giving children responsibility, and then also having the other children in their patrol or their den understand that they have surrendered a little bit of their freedom to have a leader. And they voted on who the patrol leader is, or who the den leader is. And there's an assistant den leader, an assistant patrol leader, and then a senior patrol leader, and a well-run troop. And I'm sure this is true all over the world. A well-run troop is a troop run by the scouts, not by the adults. And the adults need to be very supportive, but they need to let children fail, if that's the right way to put it, and not step in and cook their food for them, or make their fires for them, or things like that. And just let them. So Noel said, well, what is really going on here? Well, one of the very important things is letting children learn and practice leadership and followership. That's my 2 bits.
No, I think that's great. I think you're right on point. I think also, there's just so many opportunities. It's like you said, a troop has to be well run by the actual scouts. And like historically, if you go back and you look at World War II, all of the scout leaders were gone. And we didn't have the same volunteership of mothers that we have nowadays, or in the 90s. In the 90s, we even gave den mothers their own uniform, the yellow scouting uniforms. So that's really when we had a big boom in mother participation. We had den mothers before that, but when World War II hit, the scouts really ran their own troops. So if something like that would happen today, I don't know that we could I don't know that we could emulate the success that we had back then, unfortunately, because I feel like we have kind of moved a little bit away from. Parents don't realize how important the aspect of the program is, if that makes sense, and
Well,
what the scouts do.
Well, I don't think a lot of adults don't give children enough credit for having ability, and you can look at a lot of historical circumstances where, for example, a 10-year-old had to take his younger brothers and sisters across the plains after his parents had died, or something like that, and so I have a lot of respect for children. Even a 3 or 4-year-old is busy learning things. And so it's a matter of helping them continue on that road of self-improvement. And that's one of the problems of all, I think, of the modern video age, is that it's kind of like you sit back and somebody else does everything while you sit on the couch and eat junk food, and that's not where scouts are.
No, we had kind of touched on this. Noelle asked another question here. She says, I have a first grader who's learning his first lesson on leadership and his influence on those around him. What leadership tools or opportunities are offered? We did start talking about that it is troop led. It is led by the youth. When you go to, like, if you visit a scout meeting, not Cub Scouts necessarily, but when you visit a troop meeting for scouts, 11 to 17-year-olds, they are troop led. If you go and see, you'll see that the youth are the people that go up front, and at some points they'll offer, do the adults have any announcements that they'd like to make? No? Okay, great. And then they take on and go in the other. But specifically, at the troop level, my face is going to get bright because I'm going to switch screens here. At the troop level, they have something called ILST, or Introduction to Leadership Skills for Troops. It used to be known as something called JLT, which is Junior Leadership Training, which it teaches you, like we talked about before. We talked about the team development and the importance of it, and it actually teaches you the psychology and stages of team development: forming, storming, norming, and performing. You get introduced to that at that troop level training, and then conflict resolution, communications. You learn from the very basics, like Aristotle's model of communication, which we talked about in another episode here, for the communication merit badge, public speaking merit badge. You learn that the Aristotle's model is a sender, a message, and a receiver. Those basic communication, basic conflict resolution, team development, team forming, that kind of thing. You learn that at ILST, and then you go to, if you're good at it and your troop deems that you're good at it as well, you might have an opportunity to go to something called National Youth Leadership Training, which is all that stuff and then some more. And it's actually based off the Wood Badge program that was started on Brownsea Island all those years ago too, but it's the youth version of that. And then if you're really good at that, and maybe somebody wants you to be on the staff for that, you can go do that, and it gets better and you learn more. And if they want you to be on senior staff, sometimes they'll send you to something called NAIL, which I talked about before, which is National Advanced Youth Leadership Experience, which is all that classroom stuff plus doing something difficult through the extra classroom stuff that you learn about it. And it's a lot of fun.
Well, if I could say something, that Noelle said that her child's a first grader, and in Cub Scouts you have a den leader, and that, not an adult, you have one of the kids as a den leader, and then they'll put on little plays and skits and things like that, and so they learn leadership early, and I think if it's run properly, and if the adults sit back and say, now y'all listen to Joe because he's the one that's in charge, and that. Alex, you were going to say something, I could tell.
Well, honestly, so the big thing is we have over 100 years of history, right? 2010 was our 100th anniversary, so now we're at 116 years, and in 116 years we have developed this program multiple different ways. We have adjusted it. Greenbar Bill rewrote the Scout Handbook and traveled the world meeting scouting troops and really coming up with an amazing program, to the point of now many scouting organizations around the world model their programs after us. We might have been a little bit late to the Cub Scouts mainly because we didn't want to do them for a while.
Mhm.
But ultimately, the Cub Scout program was started by Baden Powell too, and the goal was to start to get kids active and to learn these skills early. I've had 30 or so merit badge appointments in the last month or so, and in every single one, make it a point to talk to scouts and tell them that scouts lead. We lead the way. We're supposed to lead the way. We have training that we give you to make you the most successful version of an American citizen that you can be. That's our goal. That's our goal. We want you to be successful.
Alex, you mentioned merit badges. You've developed a virtual merit badge system. Please tell us a little bit about that. And also, is there a link that people can go to that the Lone Scout program that was started many, many years ago? They came up with Lone Scout idea for a child that lived out, 50 miles from any other child, but he could somehow still be a scout and still do things. But you're working on internet type stuff, aren't you?
Yeah. So honestly, like if I had scouts that came to me and they wanted a Lone Scout leader, I would be thrilled to do that for them. I'd be happy to be that contact point for scouts around the country if they ever needed one. It hasn't come to that yet, but I think the Lone Scout program is an incredible program, and it's one that I talk with scouts a lot about. The history is really fascinating. It was started by W.D. Boyce, the same founder of the Boy Scouts of America, and it was really made for rural kids. The point of it was more to expand his magazine operations, to be honest with you, though. That was part of it. But the other aspect was really to, really get those kids that couldn't form a troop. He thought of that idea first. Yep. He's like, well, I can also sell some magazines, so this would be good. He was a newspaper magnate, so it just makes sense, right? But the BSA ended up buying the Lone Scout program a few years later on, and we've utilized it as its own aspect of scouting. But we don't talk about it very often, and no one really knows much about the program. So I always try to let scouts know, especially if they're moving. We have scouts that are in the Transatlantic Council right now, and we may have issues with keeping that council together at all in the future, unfortunately, from some of the announcements that we've heard from the Department of Defense. So, those scouts may need to become Lone Scouts. So we want to make sure that they're aware of the program as well in case something like that would happen in the future. But with the virtual merit badge program, I'm really happy. It's something I kind of developed just kind of on the fly. I wanted to offer more merit badge classes to scouts. Every summer, I try to add a few merit badges to the catalog. I think we're up to 22 different merit badges. I believe all the citizenships requirements, we offer those. And I think maybe 2 or 3 other Eagle Scout required badges. And the rest are kind of all electives and fun things. We've offered Scouting Heritage since we opened in person, but I wanted to find a way to reach more scouts because, being in Charleston, we have scouts, but even here, our scouts are all over the place. Like really, when I was a scout, it was a 20-minute drive just to the scout meeting. So that hasn't changed in West Virginia. It's still very much like that. So I thought that it might be better to offer the virtual option, especially to like the Southern coal fields, because that could be an hour to a 2-hour drive to us.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Or what about Morgantown, West Virginia? There's tons of scouts from the Mountaineer Area Council. So we wanted to reach out to them. So the idea kind of came to me, like how I could offer it. Luckily, our merit badge program, I think is one of the best programs that we offer, period. I think it is super instructive. It allows scouts to not only learn about whatever subject that they're trying to earn the merit badge for, but it makes them pretty well-rounded and gives them a good background and basis on whatever they're trying to learn. And with it being scout-led, it's just a great program for you to be able to learn on your own, and then to reinforce that, I think, with the merit badge counselor. So what I've tried to do with how the program's written and going through reading through some of how we should utilize the program, I've started to assign the workbooks to the scouts so they could do the work themselves, make myself available to them via email. And what I tell them is we make sure we have to do 2 deep leadership. That's the most important thing. So if you have questions, you need to email me. Just include your parent or your guardian, and I'm happy to answer your questions. And then once your merit badge workbook is done, what we'll do is I have the parents schedule a meeting with me. We offer 3 meetings a day at 11, 1 p.m., and 3 p.m. And I can also, I'm a little bit.
You're talking about like a Zoom meeting, meeting. Y'all
Yeah,
call
like
it-
a Zoom. Yeah,
Well,
like a Zoom meeting. So that way,
one thing
Mhm.
I'd like to make sure of is that, like I say, I think first aid is probably the most important of all the merit badges. So
Mhm.
when I want to make sure that if a person takes on first aid merit badge, it becomes a lifetime study of his, so that it's not just what I learned to pass the badge or something like that, but how I keep up with it. And there's a lot of great first aid material on the internet, on YouTube and all of, where
Mhm.
people say how to sew up a person, for example. So at any rate, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but I want to make sure that if a person has a merit badge, he's
Mhm.
actually shown proficiency in understanding that subject, so that it maybe becomes part of his profession later, or helps him save somebody's life, or something of that nature.
Yeah, most of the ones that we offer, so that one's not really one that I'm going to be able to offer virtually,
Yep.
and for a lot of reasons. There,
Yep.
there are some that just do not make sense to do virtually. That's one
Yep.
of those, and obviously, like rifle shotgun shooting, of course not. This don't make
Yeah.
sense. But for like a lot of the ones that we offer are like stuff that they can do parent led or with their parents, and the parents can confirm that stuff has been finished. I also
Yep.
make them actually show me physical evidence, like pictures, or send me information to show. So, like, we do home repairs. That is a
Mhm.
tough merit badge for scouts to do because you have to do so many repairs. I mean, there's like, it's literally a laundry list of like honey-do list. You know what I mean? It's massive.
Yeah.
So, but like what I do is I'm like, your parents have to confirm that you fixed that, and they have to take a picture of the broken and fixed. And you have to send me both things, so that way I actually have proof that they finished the work, and I actually keep all the workbooks as well. So if their advancement coordinator reaches out to me, I can be like, well, this is what they gave me, and we talked about it for an hour in our meeting, and I actually go in more in depth to it. So I want them to do it on their own. It's really important that they learn on their own, because if you do something, if you find the information on your end, you're more likely to retain it. That's just it works better that way. And then I'm the cherry on top. That's why I think the program, and that's really I think how it was supposed to be. I'm supposed to be there to answer questions and to be that enrichment aspect of it. So like when we do the AI merit badge, we talk about the stuff in the merit badge, but then we go into further details like current events, and we talk a little bit about, like, I try to apply things that are happening in the world right now to the actual merit badge itself. So we'll talk about XAI and Grok, and we'll talk about and some of the things that Grok has done and how that relates to the merit badge itself, so that they have real world examples that they can latch on to and they can understand better. So so the workbook is a really important part, just because I want them to get that baseline information, and then I want to expand upon that so they really understand when they're done. And I'm really lucky. I've got great feedback from parents and guardians, from scouts, that have been like, I learned a lot from that. Even last week, I was thrilled that one of the parents sent me an email. I was telling them about data centers, and we were talking about AI data centers and how those work and what that really means, and how it can affect the bottom dollar, and how it's going to affect electricity prices where you live, and water prices, and all this stuff. And the mom emailed me back and said, I'm so glad you talked to our scout about that. I was listening to the conversation. I saw this article. Now I'm about to go down to the local government to protest this, because I don't want to pay more for my electricity. Thank you for letting me know. So, you know what I mean? It was great that that's a way that you can impact your community. So sometimes it's just sharing information. That's our jobs as scouts, is to help people make informed decisions about what it means to live in our communities and be a part of our communities. Sometimes we have to be that person too, and we have to protect each other. We have to do that as well. Scouts are more likely to step into danger, unfortunately. I hate to say it, but it's true.
But we have an obligation.
We do.
As
We feel
scouts,
obligated.
we feel the obligation. That's 15 people standing around watching somebody drown, and the one that goes out and tries to help them is the scout. I mean, that's or is a fool who doesn't know what he's doing and goes out there and also drowns. Option A, option B.
Then you better hope there's a scout around. I've got another question here from Noel, and it actually ties in very well with what you were just talking about. So what you're describing is being a merit badge counselor for several merit badges. Her question is, what opportunities do parents have that aren't able to make regular commitments but want to step in when they can? There's a two-part answer. First, you were saying that I want the pictures of the proof for, did you do this? If you didn't do it here with me. And so as a merit badge counselor, you have to verify that these things were done. And that's one thing. Now, I just was recently promoted to the advancement chair for my troop that I'm involved with, that my kids are in. And so I'm doing the same thing. Now, being advancement chair is obviously, it's a big commitment, and you kind of do have to be there for every week. But you don't even have to sign up with Scouting America and be a member of Scouting America, but you can be a merit badge counselor. So if you have expertise or knowledge, or maybe not super in-depth knowledge, but there's merit badges for like photography, videography, or cinema, whichever, I don't know what it's called now. It's either cinematography or videography. Yeah. Or automotive maintenance. There's how many? 180 merit badges? Yeah. So there's all those merit badges, and if you want to be, involved in any type of capacity like that, at the bare minimum, you can be a resource for scouts that are trying to accomplish those merit badges, and be available to answer questions for them or verify that they have done something, because in order to complete a merit badge, you do have to have a merit badge counselor for it. And there's not merit badge counselors for everything that's readily available all the time. So if you want to be involved a little bit, and you don't have to make those regular commitments, maybe a Saturday every few months for a merit badge day, or just have your email address listed. So if a scout's like, I'd really like to do the whatever merit badge, whatever it may be, they can email you and say, would you be my merit badge counselor for this? Can I send you this proof? Or can me and my parent meet with you so I can do these things for you or with you, so that I can get these requirements signed off. So if you want to be involved a little bit, but not all the way, if you can't commit to being a committee chair member, or advancement chair, or an assistant scoutmaster, or whatever, what have you, then you can be involved in that in a little bit, just like that, to be a resource, which is so helpful.
Let me also say that you have a young child, and it's very easy to be pretty easy to be involved in Cub Scout programs. I remember when I started a Cub Scout program with my little boy, and one of the mothers said, when she saw how easy it was to entertain the tiger cubs, or the 6-year-olds, she brought some buttons and thread and needles and scrap cloth to the meeting, and said, let's learn how to sew on buttons, how to thread needles, and do this stuff. So it's simple stuff. And I'm sure and then my son was on one of these, Alex, and he was talking about how one of the mothers, they had a farm. So she helped them. She volunteered to be the merit badge counselor for things like animal husbandry and meat production, or whatever it was. And so there's all kinds of opportunities to help like that, and they're very welcome. That's one of the, if I may say, and I know we can't go on all night, but when I was young, we had a list of merit badge counselors because my troop was extremely well organized. But not all troops are, and that's one reason I have a lot of sympathy for kids that don't make, quote, Eagle Scout, is because some of them just don't have that kind of, their troop is not that organized, because not enough parents have stepped up and filled in all those little gaps. And just driving to and from the campouts, that's another way parents can help out, and so forth. All right, I'm with y'all now.
Well, so truthfully, like you guys said, the merit badge counselors, I know all councils are desperate for them. I mean, it's something that is a real need that we have. And there's been a bit of an issue. They do charge $25 now to be a merit badge counselor. You have to pay.
Is that for a background check?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but there is a $25 fee for it. That is one downside to the program. I'm working to try to talk with someone at the BSA about that problem, because I think it's a barrier for us to get subject matter experts in, if that makes sense. And then I also am trying to work, I've found this, I think the program has been very successful for the museum, but of course we're a scouting museum, so it would be successful for us. However, there are tons of merit badges that fall within all kinds of heritage sites, museums, and cultural sites all around the country that those sites could offer. So I am trying to expand our programming that we offer here and reach out to other heritage sites and museums and kind of tell them how to copy what we do so that they can maybe offer more merit badges regionally to kids, have, merit badge counselors at those nonprofits, locally to them, and we can kind of boost the program nationwide is my goal. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but I'm going to try to work to see what we can do and maybe at least get an exemption for those folks.
Well, when you're talking, I'm making notes because I was thinking these. We have several state parks in Georgia that are where there were mound building cultures, and so the people there that are in those museums could be merit badge counselors. And
genealogy,
anyway, yeah. And
we offer genealogy. I mean, they could all offer genealogy. Almost every historian could do that one pretty easily.
Yes.
There are, there have been Indian merit badges in the past that we've offered Indian lore and different things. Those would be perfect for burial sites. If they come back for, like I think we offered Indian lore in 2010. I don't know if we offer it now.
It's called Indian culture or something.
Is it
American culture? They're renaming it, So, but it's still about having respect and memory of our common ancestry here in North America. That's some people are overly sensitive about such things, but I think scouting promulgates and celebrates our Native American culture, and always has.
That's always been the goal. I think if you ask scouts of Native backgrounds, they agree. I'm not one to speak for them at all. Please don't. You know what I mean? That's not what I'm saying. But I've talked to many scouts of Native backgrounds and asked them their opinions, because that's a topic I have to talk with scouts and OA members with a lot, right? We have a lot of the Feigenbaum Indian or Native American logo all over the building, and some people are offended by that. Scouts don't seem to be offended by that because I think they understand the respect that we really have for, and the goal of the OA was really to honor the Native American tribes, it wasn't anything negative about that. So,
well, you remember Dan Beard, he started off, it was something like his movement for boys was something like the Indians.
So his was Sons of Daniel Boone, and then Ernest Thompson Seton had the Woodcraft Indians of the Birch Bark Roll, which they're still around. It's the Woodcraft League now, is what they're called.
Oh, okay. Well,
but there's just not very many.
Well, they should listen to us also. By the way, we've gone for an hour and something minutes, and so some of the people are driving to work, and I'm sure they just love listening to us. How about just one last advertisement for your museum, Alex?
Please.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. So if you do have an opportunity, if you're going to come to the summit for a visit, come for a jamboree, maybe for high adventure in the summer, definitely stop by and see the World Scouting Museum. If you can't make it to us here in person in Charleston, then definitely go to our website. It's worldscoutingmuseum.org. There are scouting exhibits, scouting history. There are links to all of our things that we offer. We have a small little YouTube channel with a few explainer videos on some of the scouting's mascots history, which is really interesting. We talk about Peanuts, Garfield, the Spokes Cat. We talk about Tintin and his history as a Boy Scout. Most people don't realize that's his background. And so those are really fun to just kind of watch really quick and learn a little bit about scouting history, like a quick bite. The podcast that we offer is on Spotify. It's called the Daisy Doll and Steve Scout Podcast, and we would love for you guys to check that out. It focuses on items within the collection of our museum and expands the history and tells you about it and does a deep dive conversation about scouting history. This month's podcast just released a couple days ago, and it was about the failed jamboree in Iran in 1979. I thought it was perfectly topical for this time of year and for everything that's going on in the world. We have jamborees coming up, so I thought it was like the perfect thing to talk about. Next month, I'm going to talk about the World Jamboree year that followed the failed jamboree in 1979 and the different places that they offered like jamboree experiences due to the fall of the Shah and the canceling of the World Jamboree in Iran. So there's a bunch of.
You said the Daisy Dolls scouting. What now? What was it called?
Daisy Doll and Steve Scout's podcast. The Daisy Doll and Steve Scout podcast.
Steve Scout. Got it. I will make sure that we get links to all these things in our descriptions across all the platforms that we have here.
And then we also do the newsletter. Yeah. I forgot about the newsletter.
And that's right. I'm gonna sign up for your newsletter, but I'm gonna expect you to put a plug in for this and anything else, because we've had some mighty good programs. One of which that I thought was very good was about outdoor first aid, emergency wilderness first aid. It's not that we taught it, but we talked about the importance of it with a man who's one of these experts that certifies people in wilderness first aid. Is in our council down here.
With David
Anything else,
McLaughlin.
Elliot, before we close up?
No, this has been very interesting, and I look forward to coming and visiting y'all sometime up in there. I did want to ask, how big is the facility there?
It's massive. So I joke it's like half of a city block. I don't think it's quite that big, but it's a massive building. We do cover the whole second floor, and then the first floor we have an event room. So if you bring your troop, like I do lunch down there. We work on merit badges down there or whatever. We also have storage. I would love, and I'm working on trying to get a scouting theater put together so we could show things like Follow Me Boys for special parties.
Oh, that sounds great.
I would also like to we have some historic video that people have donated to us. So like one of the local churches had a Boy Scout troop that went on a trip to the Congo. And they have all the video of their Boy Scout trip to the Congo that I have all the reels of. And I'm going to get
what year was that?
I think in the 60s, I believe 68 or something, long time ago. So, I mean, just all kinds of cool stuff.
Hey, that's not so long ago.
Well,
not for me.
It could have been longer than that. I mean, it's the reels. I've never seen reels like this before, so I'm not sure. Like, it could be older than that, but I know that they had reels like that kind of in that era. So it could be from there. It could be older. But I haven't even been able to watch them because I don't have the right machinery. I got to take them to the State Museum.
I'll tell you how you can do that. The University of South Carolina will take any film that has historic value and digitalize it. They keep the film.
Okay.
And film goes bad. This is something people all over this podcast might be interested in, but you can take old family films and they will, and they're not the only place in the country that does this, but they'll have those films. They'll send you back the CDs or whatever they use these days. And so you have it in digital form that you can work with, and they have it in the original film way. And that original film will deteriorate if it's got the wrong temperature and the wrong humidity. You let them have it before it goes bad.
We keep it with so we have a giant scouting resource library here with just about every scout book and every merit badge pamphlet ever. And I keep it in there. So it's humidity controlled, but it's definitely not, it's not a film storage room. So I am a little bit nervous that it could not be perfect,
and you have no way to use it if you don't
have
a
the
16 millimeter projector.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
I've got one I can give you, a 16 millimeter. My father used to take it to the Cub Scout pack meetings, and then he would take like 16 millimeter home movies of the latest when the pack goes up on some big adventure, and then he showed it at the next meeting. It was great.
That's cool. There, one more question. I know we're trying to close it out, but this is interesting to me. Noel says, out of curiosity, what's the best trip that any of y'all have taken? I spoke about it earlier, but it was certainly my nail trip to Northern Tier in Minnesota when I was 14. That was my favorite one, even though it had a lot of hard things to do. It was certainly one of the most memorable experiences I've ever had. And what about you, Alex?
For me, it would have to be the summer camp where I did my ordeal. Honestly, there's so many. That's one of those best things. I didn't get the opportunity to go to a jamboree or anything like that, or to do like something like nail, unfortunately. So it kind of was like scouting boiled into one major like experience. Everything that you could want from scouting, I got from that experience, and it made me love it. It made everything that I learned really like crystallize and become really a part of my personality. So it was a really, really great trip, an important trip for me.
And Walker, what was your favorite?
I'd have to say that going to the World Jamboree in 1963, and it was in Greece, and so the contingent went to London, and then we went to Lausanne, and then we went to Zurich, and where else did we go? We went to Rome, and we went to Venice, and we went to Athens, and then we camped at Marathon, where the Battle of Marathon took place, and then after that we went down into Peloponnese, that's down in Sparta, and then that was a heck of a trip.
But if anyone would just if they can get to their Webelos residence camp, I mean, just at their own home council could possibly be the best trip ever. Because before I went to Nail, I'd say my Webelos residence camp was one of my more favorite adventures. The first one to go without your parents. Oh my gosh, so crazy. It was crazy. But anyways, I think it's a good time to wrap. Alex, I'd like to have you on again and talk some more about this. Maybe after the jamboree.
Sure, that'd be great. Anytime, I'd love to do that. But definitely get in contact with me, and we'll try to have Dr. Horn set up for you guys in the future. He's in Vegas, so the timing would be fine for him, I'm sure, at this time. So just got to work out the schedule.
Sounds great. All right, Hank, and that wraps it up for tonight, everybody. I hope you've all enjoyed our podcast, and we'll hang in here for just a minute so that Elliot can make sure he's got everything hooked up the right way. Thank you, everybody. Good night.